computer. So thank you everybody for showing up to this LegalShield and Fieldnotes webinar that we do. This is January 6th, 2025. I didn't think I was ever going to say that. Now we're in another year. And so today what I wanted to talk about with everybody is just action plans. I had a new sign up, and that's a conversation that we're having. So I figure it's a good conversation for everybody if they haven't discussed action plans or thought about action plan. It's inevitable. And with this new sign up, she's already been able to upload leads. She's got an online book that she has to offer. She's also going to use that to also kind of try to like convert people into LegalShield as maybe like a work from home opportunity. So that's also pretty smart on her behalf to kind of channel that attention through. And I think she has like 300 and something people that wanted to receive her book. So, that's also now 300 and something people that she has an opportunity that she has some rapport with, a relationship with, that she can now, most likely take her opportunity about, having a side hustle, a work from home opportunity. So it's like everybody has their way to kind of skin the cat. This is just a way to kind of get a group that you have to talk to them about another opportunity. It's not something that I would assume everybody is 100% going to want to, is looking for a work from home opportunity. But if there was just a small percentage of those people that wanted to, then I know that's a drop in your guys' bucket, which is, at the end of the day, welcomed. You know what I mean? So let me just see here. We got relatively a full house, so blessed to see. Anybody, if you guys have any?
Hey, you got a haircut.
Oh, no, it's it's still
Oh, it
it's
was just
still there.
hiding. It's just
It's
hiding.
yeah,
Okay.
it's just
Soak
underneath
it
the
up.
screen. No, no, no problem.
Okay.
I don't think I'll ever get a haircut. I think I'm just gonna wait for this thing to go to my knees, and I'll be I'll
Okay.
be happy.
It was hiding. I thought, what?
Yeah, no,
Before
no,
you change the subject.
yeah. My wife wishes I would just wake up one day, but not gonna happen. I'm gonna keep this long guy for about as long as I can. So, let's discuss some things that I've been, going over with this new sign up is action plan. So she has about, I think maybe about 150 networking accounts, and so that's about 158, 160 people that she wants to get on a retention campaign. So I wonder if I have the right screen sharing. Let me just go back real quick. Yeah. So when we were discussing all of this, I was showing her a bunch of places, and that's essentially what I want to do with you guys in group is where can you find our action plan library? So that's a little bit different from our template message library, which is template messages, or the template library is one-off, right? The action plan library lives in action plans by just clicking onto the Thunderbolt or hovering, and then you'll see the options, and then you can select action plans. Your default folder is this one. So if you guys, haven't organized your things into different folders, it's most likely all going to live in default. But whenever you go to import an action plan, it's actually going to import the folder as well. So if you import one of these holiday ones, right, and you can preview by just clicking this little link or this little button next to it, and then it'll show you the full message. This is the graphic. I guess if it was longer, you could go back and forth. It has your signature. All of these things, I would assume you would. I think owner's signature is your signature, but it's the same thing as my signature, right? So let me just write something. And sorry about that. Okay, so let me just let them know I'm doing a Zoom. All right, so now my attention's all to this. So here, right, action plan, import action plans. You can view any of the action plans that we have here. Now, yes, it's one message, but it is built into the form of an action plan. So don't get it confused with a template. This is not a template. However, it can be used similarly, right? You can activate it independently on a contact, just like a text, just like a template. So I can explain that in a little bit as we move forward it, but let me let somebody in. But essentially, this is what it looks like. You can then import it. And as I said, it will import this folder. And then so when you go to view your action plans, if you don't have a holiday folder, you will then have a holiday folder. And then that's where you can also save other holiday action plan content, stuff like that. So these are some of them, if I'm not correct. And so as you can see, this is just a one activity action plan where you can edit the email and if you wanted to add maybe a text message to it, you can. So this is just a graphic that if you wanted to switch this out with something else, you definitely can. If you wanted to change the wording, you definitely can. I suggest everybody when you get these action plans or when you import them, that you look them over, you look at the smart tags. So if you need to adjust the smart tag, all you have to do is just do an @ symbol, then you can do my signature, and then you can save it. And now this has been saved. It has your fresh information saved. You can put on a special email subject if you want to have it sent to the person's alternate email or the third email, right? Which is also the spouse's email. You can just basically click on these and it will go ahead and add. That means that if the person has emails in all of these fields, he'll get email. Happy Thanksgiving to all of these, right? If you wanted to remove this and get this out of here and use something from your own template, you could do that as well, right? Um, if you created something relatively unique, sorry about that. Just turn the sound of this guy. All right. So let's say you created this, but yet you want to save it as a template so that you could, maybe use it for next year, or for next year, you can change it and then just have this template. You can save this as a template, right? So that's a good thing. If you have an action plan or if you have one of these pieces of an action plan, you can save it as a template and put it into your own folder so that you do have just that email saved as a template to where you can use it on your own, right? So that is that. You can CC somebody if you'd like. Be careful with that, right? Because let's say if you CC'd yourself, you're going to get an email, but that could be something that you want, even though it's going to come from your email address that you have connected to the account, but that would also make it to where you also get the email as well. So, it really depends on how you want to do it. But for me, if it was me, I would be just happy enough knowing that the people get it. I can check it in my send photo or in my send folder and know that it went out, right? So that is that. So another part of the action plan is to when can you send these out, right? So since this is the first one, you have two options. Send now, which means whenever this gets triggered, it immediately sends. So let's say you were doing late night work, 1 in the morning, and you started this action plan at that time. This is going to send that email at that time, all right? So be careful with that. If you don't want that to happen and you select this, you can actually select days, minutes, and hours. And then you can, so let's say you do 0 hour, 0 days, or you do 5 minutes, 2 minutes. Let me see, why doesn't it let you hours? Let's say days. So when you select the days, it allows you to, so like let's say you did 0 days, but now you can actually select the time. So if you wanted to do this so that it goes out at 10 a.m., it will start in 0 days, which is essentially start now, but it'll have this 10 a.m. time frame. So if you save this and you actually start it, it will basically send it at that time, right? So that could help you if you're doing something at night. It could show you that there's a time, then you could adjust the date for the following day, and then it'd be at 10 a.m. And then that way you're not sending an email to somebody at super late time, right? When bringing action plans from the import, so this is the library where you can see all of these folders. So we've got a cold lead market outreach one. Now this one is emails, text messages, emails, text messages. So this is heavy emails and text messages. And if you look at these action plans with the text messaging, I can't see it because I don't have them. I think they are maybe 2 credits a piece. So if you sent this text message to somebody and it's two two credits, and let's say you send it to 100 contacts, it would consume 200 credits worth of your 800, right? Opposed to if these messages were just one credit, obviously it would be 100 credits for the 100 contacts, and you would still have 700 left. So that would be the best scenario to obviously get as much text messaging as possible. However, if you are trying to reach these people, engage them, cold lead, reach out to a cold lead, sometimes you got to invest, some text messaging and some efforts on your behalf. But one thing that we did when I was playing around with this and actually utilizing this for people is I would take this action plan and I would copy it into two action plan, and I would remove all the text messages in one and just leave. And then I would start with just emailing these people because emailing is a little bit more affordable. You can send more emails than you can text. And I would follow along to see if these emails are being opened. And if they're being opened, well, then maybe next week I start off this action plan with text messages only and see if any of those direct text messages bring people to those emails, and then hopefully get them to circle back to yourself and see if, they want to take the opportunity seriously, something along those lines, right? So that is that is how I would skin this cat, as I would break this up into two. And so I think I have this action plan already broken up, so we can actually take a look at that and what it looks like. So here is the folder, and here you go. So this one is 13. However, this one I copied it, right? And you can copy by going to the three dots. You can actually edit the basics, clone the plan, or if you wanted to delete it completely, you could. I cloned it. It gave me this one. And then with this one, I think this one's only emails. So for me to start this on somebody, real easy. And then I'll just go back to their contact and see if they're opening them up. And if they're being delivered and if they're opening them up, they may get a phone call from me. They may get well, not from me personally, but hypothetically, I would maybe possibly give them a phone call, maybe start the text message, because now I can't assume that I have somebody's undivided attention, but at least I have some indicator that they're opening them, right? That they are somewhat viewing these, I hope. To what extent, I don't know, right? So it's not like I know what they've consumed in these action plans. However, they are quite complete, right? So it has a link to a LegalShield video that's just talking about LegalShield. It has a link to an ID Shield, which just talks about ID Shield. This talks about a work from home opportunity. So the possibilities of getting an associate, because that's what you're kind of leading in with, is getting somebody to be joining your team as a work from home opportunity. But what if they like the LegalShield product? Like if they don't want to really get a work from home opportunity, but they're looking towards a legal, they like what they see about the LegalShield or the Identity Shield. Well, now you can transition and be like, well, if you like the product that much, I can just get you signed up with the product. Bam. They can read this PDF. They can watch this video. I remember Chip talking about, he goes into prospect, puts in kind of like I don't want to say a fake contact, confirm Chip if you want, but he has like a contact in there where he uses those videos, those links, and then he'll follow up on those on the, I guess, on the analytics that you guys can see through prospect. And he'll see if the person, so if he called these 10 people, sent these emails out, and sees that the people opened up the email and goes back to prospects and sees that they actually consumed the video, well, then that's a way of him saying, okay, these people saw it. I think it tells you how much they saw the video. So right there, that could give you a nice grade of interest of to see how much they liked and viewed of it. And then hopefully they obviously reach back in touch with you. Here's your signature. So a good reason to have a robust signature, whether if it's your phone numbers, email addresses, a Calendly link to book time with you, your website, everything that can validate you and you're doing this legitly. I think that'll help you kind of sell. And so yeah, so this is strictly just emails. I feel that it's better to start with just emails instead of consuming a lot of credits, because some of these messages consume a lot of credits. And if you're using it on, 50 people a day, you'll quickly go through your month's worth of credits relatively quick. But if that's what you're trying to do, there's also other packages to where you can purchase a couple of more credits so that you do send out and you can basically outreach these people with emails and text messages. So if you find that it's legit and the price is something that you can deal with for the moment, then I would say, it's in your budget. Go ahead and do that. So there's that, and then yeah, I would start with emails and then see how it goes, and then maybe start doing some text messages. I think that definitely is the best bet, so that you just don't waste through all your text messaging. But yeah, so these are how many activities did I say? These are 6 activities for this one. Let me see, what about these other ones? But essentially, let me see if these are just ones that I've downloaded from just downloading text messages. Now, let's say we wanted to turn this one just into text messaging. We can delete the email. We can delete the email. We can delete the email, delete the email, delete the email, delete the email. And now we've got 5 activities. All of these are text messages. So this would essentially just go out as a text message. Now each one of these little text messages kind of supported the email, right? So it kind of says the same thing as the email, has the same kind of links. So in reality, if you start off with the emails, that's fine. These are just kind of like helpful text messages that bring the content to the person's phone where they can click it, view the content. So hopefully this engages a little bit better because text messages overall do better than emails. But now that you have this set up, you can go back. You can see that it has the 5 activities here. And if you wanted to make an edit to this, you could, and you could say outreach, and then, oops, this is the folder, but you could do SMS. And then that way you know that this is just strictly SMS action plan. This one is both. This one is just emails. And this is another one, right? So if you guys like the format, you guys can essentially copy it and then just make edits to these actions or to these activities and then save everything. And now you have a new action plan. I remember teaching somebody how to do an action plan. And when I came back to another meeting that we had, she had, I want to say, anywhere from like 7 action plans, and she used the same one, built out 7 different ones, but they all had essentially the same information. It was just different verbiage for each one for different scenarios that she was using them with, and different lead sources. So, and I never told her that. That was something that she just kind of came up to her own. And I was just like, you know what? That was extremely smart. And she was like, yeah, in the beginning, it took us like an hour or so to build one of these action plans. And when I remembered the clone button, right, where you could clone the plan, she was like, I just did that, made the changes that I need, and I was able to make the 7 other action plans within 30 minutes. And I was like, well, that's really smart, because for what you thought it was going to take an hour and something each action plan, that wasn't the case, right? So it was just a matter of making the small little changes, saving everything, doing them one by one. And now she had 7 different action plans with custom verbiage for each and every resource, or what was it, lead source that she had. It was just the smartest thing. And then through that little exercise, she's extremely comfortable now building one of these from scratch, right? So that's also something that it's going to do, is it's going to teach you. But this is the cold lead market outreach folder. Holidays has obviously holiday stuff. There's this nurture, right? But if we look at the action plan library folders, nurture has this legacy retention one, has this membership retention one. Not sure why these happy birthdays are there, but I guess it falls underneath nurturing. Now, when speaking to somebody that does networking, she reviewed this one, and even though it says no trend micro on IDS, she liked all of these communications. So because this is networking, right? I just wanted to bring that to your guys' attention, that she saw this as a working action plan, and she looked over all of them, and she was like, you know what? I could use this on my networking people. I don't think she made any real big changes to this, other than because this is people that have already signed up. She created 2 different ones of these ones. One's for her current customers, and then one for new customers. So the current customers has a different verbiage. It says something like, she acknowledges the fact that these aren't new people coming in, so people don't obviously read it and be like, what do you mean? I've been with the program for so long. You saying that I'm new? What's the deal? You know what I mean? So she changed the verbiage to acknowledge the people that have been here. However, if you haven't already signed up and installed the app and all of that kind of stuff, here's the email that'll help you do that. So she created out of this one, she created it into two, but she says this is, good for her. And if it's good for her, I'm going to assume that this is good for other people as well. So if you guys haven't had a chance to review this, I would definitely review this and, put it into work, because one thing that she came to Field Notes was because of retention. She fell way below in retention and she lost out going to Jamaica because of it. So I don't know if that was, a nice yank on the ears, but she's now, you know what I mean, considering I need to work on my retention. So how can I do that? And these are ways in which, helping people use the product and the benefits and, member perks, all of those kinds of things, will help people stay engaged. This action plan goes for 260 days. So between holiday reminders, between these reminders, you're pretty much close to about 20 something plus touches throughout a year on somebody. So hopefully this opens the door for referrals. Hopefully this does the job intended in keeping people engaged with the product, and hopefully, they continue for years using it since they've, been taught how to. So just wanted to point this guy out to you, right? This one, I'm not sure. She didn't really kind of take to this one. It has less photos, but it does have some stuff. And then of course you do have to update the links to make sure that it is. But this one is like, I'm assuming the one for networking as well. However, all you guys have to do is go through it. I can see already some of the similarities of this one to the other one. But to my knowledge, this one is more group. But at the end of the day, if it works, you guys have access to this one. Let's see how this one goes for 250 days. So, and then it's 15 activities. So you use this, wish people happy birthday, stay on top of holidays. You're going to have well over 20 something communications throughout the whole year, which at the end of the day, you want to stay top of mind. This kind of stuff will do that. So if you're not using this on your current customers, I definitely consider doing it, right? Especially to keep the retention. Let's take a look to see. We got lead gen. Now, if I'm not correct, this is an action plan that came from your prospect and was turned into an action plan in ours. So if you guys are familiar with prospect, I think it's called Opportunity 2.0 or something like that. So that's a direct I would say like a copy of that here so that you could use. And this goes how long? This is about a year's worth of outreach is what I would say. So hopefully, if they haven't seen it and said yes to you and they're on the fence, well, they could literally be on the fence for a whole year and you would be able to know that they're getting touched, right? So your follow-up, although it's always good to do phone calls and to personally drive it, you could at least, set this and forget it and know for a full year somebody's being contacted on. So if you at least try to make phone calls to these people, quarterly, I'm pretty sure you should be able to get some people to transition. This is a DM prospecting one. So this one, I think this is for group people that you could use. This is another one, articles and emails for LegalShield clients, LegalShield mobile app. So definitely there's a lot of material when it comes to these action plans already built. Just a matter of going through them, updating, adding any informations, making it more for yourself, right? This would be a huge benefit for people if you're starting to have access to this kind of stuff to kind of just get out the gate running. Definitely comb through some of these. Let me see what other. So yeah, so lead, nurture holidays, cold lead outreach. That's kind of the essential. Now, what's good about creating things in templates is you can come to a new action plan if you wanted. You could obviously create it as a test. I think I have test action plans. So let me go to one of my test ones, just not to have a bunch of test ones open. But like this, is this a test? Here we go. This one doesn't have any. So let's say you wanted to create an action plan from our library. You could do so just by going to our library and having access to all of these different files, right? Prospecting folder. If you wanted to do prospecting, there's a bunch of single templates that you could, the 3 reasons. What is this one? 3 reasons estate planning needs to be the next mandatory employee benefit. And then here it has a little bit of verbiage. You can always hit this little corner at the bottom to stretch this down so that you can get a little bit more field of view. And then here you go. You can now use this. You can either select when and how you want it to go out. And all you have to do is hit save. And now you have this activity. You can, if you wanted to then, follow it up with a text message, you could. This is asking me to sign up. So this is just a test account. And then it would have the text message here below with your message, right? So when creating these action plans, you can do them from like free-handed straight from here. I don't necessarily suggest that because if you write a good email, if you put something good together and you have it just here, then kind of makes it a little bit difficult if you just want to use this piece to somebody, right? Let's say it's so good you just want to use this. So what I suggest is being organized in your templates, going to message templates, sorry, maybe creating a folder for the name of that action plan, and then putting all of the emails related or at least building everything within that folder. Because then when you come to go to action plans, it's a matter of having a new action plan, right? So we can use this one as a test. And then you can just go from the activity that you end up creating, and you can then select it from your template, open up your library, whether if it's our library or your own folders, right? And then you can pick from your small business one, and then here you go. Now you've got your template message put in there. It's all built, looking pretty. You might have to edit here at the bottom. Oh, it has your information already. So really you just kind of dump it in, select when it needs to go out. You do get some other options here, whether if you wanted to send it, pick a days or a time, or if you wanted to do it after specific activities, you could do that. So if you select this, it'll show you all of the other activities so that you can say after this one, I want this to go. After this one, I want that one to go. So there's definitely many different ways to trigger and to build your triggers. However, that's something that I'll leave up to you guys to play around with. If it's just doing days in between, then you're going to have to basically count from the last activity, how many days starts the next one, that kind of thing. But it's really not that difficult. I just pull up a calendar and have it side by side. And that usually kind of helps me kind of organize everything, making sure that it goes out in a timely manner. Here, let's do 1 day after this last activity. And then now we have this one. So this one goes immediately when it gets started. And then this will go the following day after this first activity. And I guess essentially when building action plans, that's what it is. You know what I mean? So if you have a document, like a Word document, you could definitely build all your emails there. Then you can just slowly import them, right? Which is what I would do. Because once I have them not only built as an action plan, I also have them as a standalone email. So let's say I'm having a conversation with some of these people and they don't recall getting that email. Not only can you go to that person's contact and you can literally tell them it was sent this day, that time, or you can just say, just give me a moment. Let me send it to you independently. And then maybe through your conversation, 5, 10 minutes go by, you can ask them, did you get the email? Make sure you check your spam. And that way they can confirm that they did get it. And if you did do that, you'll see that you'll get an immediate green check. You can validate that, yeah, they did get it. So now you know that they have it and they can, review it and maybe set up a following date to see how that video went, see if they have any questions, so on and so forth. So when building an action plan, that's a little bit of, it's not too complicated. There's not too many hidden spots. What I can tell you is you have all of these options up here, which this is just building the activities, make sure what emails, what text messages, what's the organization, what's the internal triggers, right? Then trigger plan is where you're deciding, how am I going to trigger this? Is it going to be automated because of, am I going to use event dates, right? So am I going to use, of the different dates that we have, am I going to use those as the triggers for these action plans? And you can pick any of those dates, and you can pick it is today or is in, right? So then you can have it scheduled beforehand. You can also select the frequency, whether if it's a yearly thing, a monthly thing, a weekly thing. Don't forget about this option here, whether if you want this an action plan to go out multiple times to a contact. And of course, if you do want it to go out a multiple times, you do have to check this. If you don't want this to go out more than once, you want to uncheck it. This is a send you an email notification on the trigger, meaning if this was automated and you had this box checked, it would send you a message saying that this just started. That that could be, I've seen people who are like, "Oh yeah, that's a cool feature, I'll do it." And then months later they're like, "I'm getting so many emails, it's not even crazy. I need to turn this off," right? So as long as you know how to come and check to see, who's getting scheduled and who's it running on, you might not need this, but it requires you to kind of stay on top of it yourself. You know what I mean? So that is that. That is scheduling using just event dates. And then we've got business rules, and business rules is essentially every other category that isn't an event date, such as referral source, your statuses, your sales cycle. If you had plans offered chosen, your spheres, any of those can be used as a trigger under business rules, right? Group numbers, legal plans. I think this one empty or not empty. So if there is a legal plan in that field, right, you could use those as triggers to start off action plans for specific material. So if a person has a legal plan and it's not empty, that means that they have a legal plan and this action plan is strictly legal topics, then this is the perfect trigger for this opportunity. This here, you can see that this is a kind of like a throttling. This is to help you not send out so many emails in a day to somebody. And you can set it up for just 150 people a day, 175, 300 people. You can also do less if you wanted to. That way, let's say you had 300 people and you wanted to do 100, you wanted to do 100 contacts to get started on the action plan. You could set it to 100, activate it on 300 people, and every day for the first 3 days, 100 people will get started on the action plan. And then it will start the triggers different for each one of these groups that went out, and hopefully lower your impact on how many emails you're sending out through your Gmail or your Outlook. This is really, really important if you have like free emails, right? So if you have a free Gmail, that kind of thing, this really does matter more to other people, unless, because if people paid for an email and they have more of a 2,000 limit a day kind of thing, then, you have a little bit more bandwidth than others. But so yeah, so this is something that you have to be aware of, right? How many people that you're actually starting it with. Now this button here, I do like this button. This doesn't exist on all of these options, but for this one, based on the triggers that you've done, if you do this, it'll look and find out who of your contacts have these triggers, right? So let me just go back to see what was the trigger. So email is not empty. So that's a lot of people. I have 81 people. So if you set up all your triggers and then you press search your contacts, and this number matches to the amount of people that you would like to start off, then you've pretty much done a good job, right? You've successfully triggered this correctly. You can run it once or you can run continuously. So running continuously is where if anybody else is added new to the system and has an email, it'll start it on them as well, right? So that is a way to automate some things. Here you've got warnings on instances of if you ran it on like 10 people with no emails and this is only an email campaign, well, then obviously that's going to be an issue. And then same with the text message. So you would see those little warnings. You could go to the statistics and you can actually see how many emails were sent, text messages sent, delivered, opened. It'll show you like a graph. You can also go back in months and go back in dates and times and set up a custom calendar date from this time to that time to view your statistics. So if you wanted to see if this action plan really is performing for you, this is the way that you would do so. And if you are looking for some type of analytics like tracking who opens and that kind of stuff, this is the way that you would want to do that. If you do just template messages, it would force you to have to go into each one of the contacts to really kind of see what is being sent and what is being opened and that kind of stuff. So it could be a little bit more tedious work. But with this, you can just basically filter and see how these action plans are performing, which is always good to know. You know what I mean? So this is action plans in a nutshell. I don't know. Did I cause any questions or any concerns with action plans? Was it relatively self-explanatory for people, or what are your thoughts? You are muted, Sylvia, if you're trying to. There you go. Oops. You got muted again. I apologize. I think I did that when I was trying to click you to unmute. There
Okay,
you are.
here we are. No, it was very detailed, very informative. And yes, there are steps to make, but I think in the long run, obviously, it would be very, very well worth it.
I mean,
So,
the way that you can use these is in many different ways, right? Like if you like the cold lead outreach, that'll help you at least, put people into that action plan that you've met in different places. Now you can also create different action plans for different groups that you meet people at
right,
so that it's more custom for them. And then you can just build all those little opportunities and then use them whenever you have them. And then it's a little bit more custom instead of just a random generic action plan for everybody, which at some point people will be like, okay, I guess I did meet you. Maybe I didn't meet you. Maybe you purchased the lead, or maybe it was a referral, but you know what I mean? So if you can customize these so that people can identify more with them, I think you'll get more traction with these. And
or to
as
custom,
yeah, customize them. And then what I think is like, so if we look at the CRM like a gun, all of these little action plans that you create for yourself are just like bullets, right? So, I'm not going to say that you're always going to use the same ones at the same time, but at least you have it ready to go. You can use it. Then it's just utilizing it on as many people as you can, listening to the feedback, seeing how people see it. If they thought, oh, well, I didn't see that link and it was kind of clear, but maybe you didn't, maybe you can draw more attention to it, maybe like create a call to action, something like that. That might help get you more traction as well. And so, you know, these really do help people. I had a lady who had a bunch of lead sources in real estate and she really wasn't familiar with these and she created a nice little intro video. She created 7 days worth of content, multiple outreaches by herself, by the emails, by the text message. And what she found was people would get, she would get in touch with these people within 3 or 4 days, but they would never go a full week like they did before. And in fact, nobody would even call her back, answer her emails, reply to her text. It was like, what's this? But then again, her follow up wasn't structured. It wasn't 3 contacts a day. It wasn't every day like clockwork. It was sometimes when she got around to it, she would think about it, she would do it. So this is a way that if you build it out and you automate it, oh my God, you know what I mean? This will most likely get more people in touch with you. And what she was happy was people were being adults. You know what I mean? Before people were just being children, not even answering, not even replying back, even though they reached out to these sources and said, I would like to speak to somebody, right? But
right,
by her having this action plan running, people were like, they were on the ball. She says that it didn't, people didn't get past 4 days and then they were apologetic or they were just straight up, no, we found somebody. So thank you. We apologize, but we found somebody. Then she would try to have a conversation with those people as much as she could. And you never know. She would save those people, put them into like a silent bucket. And I remember her saying something to me like, "Oh, Jeremy, I just want to delete these people. These are useless. I don't want them." And I was like, "Don't do that because you never know. These people could circle back and be like, well, we did find an agent, but he was horrible."
Yeah.
And then
No,
and now you're all of a sudden the one that did the outreach, the one that has plans in place and tried to educate them on your, what you do, how you do business. And so, and then she recently, I think it was like 6 months ago, she came to me and she was like, "Hey, Jeremy, you won't believe it. Somebody from that silent bucket came back." And I was like, "Well, there you go." You know what I mean? And then she was just sending out little helpful little emails and little things that she would put together and email people about, like the top 5 things to do to stage a home, or once you've purchased your home, these are the top 5 things that I would do, coming from a real estate agent that has years in experience. And so it was those things that people were like opening up, reading, and then getting back in touch with her, like, "I like your content."
yeah,
And it's a way of showcasing that, you have some type of gray matter up there and that you're doing something with some purpose. And so it's
yeah,
that these definitely drive conversations, drive people to the table. And if you guys need help with obviously doing that, which is a hard job in itself, well then, leveraging action plans is huge. They're also
yeah,
known as drip campaigns as well, but these definitely can help you with retention, bring more business in, drive more contacts, help you create rapport. And if it's automated, none of that stuff you had to do. You just had to be there for the phone calls, be there for the questions and all of that kind of stuff, and then the rest is just history.
yeah.
So,
No, very similar. I'm also a real estate agent in 3 states and have been for over 25 years.
mm,
So that's why I would customize it. I'm leaving in 48 hours to go to Florida to Don Thompson's event that's in Orlando. So I'll have my Legal Shield hat on. But when um, in Florida, I'm also meeting with meeting planners, and I'm also meeting with another group um, as event planners in a film industry. So the customization is really important. and
and if
I
you
have
and if you yeah.
CRM. I don't leave anyone out. I had to reach out to someone this week to be a singer at a celebration of life that's in about a week. And we hadn't spoken for 7 years, but fortunately, I obviously had her info and was able to reach out to her. And she's still, "Are you still doing Legal Shield?" And I said, "Yep, I still am." So you never really close out those doors because you never know what paths people are going to need for either Legal Shield or Singer or whatever resource that we might be looking for.
And with these spheres, you could
Mm.
create so many different circles of interest. Your singers, your actors, your directors, your vendors,
Yeah,
all of the different teams and groups that you need to be able
yeah,
to quickly search, find them, and
yeah,
email them.
yeah. All
You,
12,000 of them.
I, well, people, some CRMs I've heard charge based on the amount of contacts that you save, right?
Oh yeah, you don't
Like
want to know
once you get
state.
to 1,000, you have
Yeah,
to get the next level up and the next level up and things
yeah,
like that. With us, it's unlimited.
yeah.
However,
Real estate's expensive to be in
However,
real estate.
you really, really need to think about how you're going to categorize your stuff, right? Because if you have a sales flow and you've got your legal shield, but you could have many other different businesses side by side, right? So you could have your real estate. I've seen a lot of legal shield agents utilize no, sorry, real estate agents utilize the legal shield, right, with their own client. They'll put
Yep.
their clients in, and because they can review the lawyers can review contracts, they can review a bunch of stuff. They can actually be a huge part of protecting the person during this big purchase, right?
Oh, definitely.
And so you're an agent, you get that commission, plus you get this commission, you know what I mean? Like it's definitely, I can see how this works hand in hand. And to say that you have a CRM that'll allow you to communicate to all of these different people and just leverage your busy day, it's it's a it's a it's a no-brainer for the $51 that you guys pay a month to have access to this stuff, right? So
Right.
with that said, it's this is action plans, drip campaigns, right, in our system. If you guys have questions and things like that about this for your own self personally, like how can I create these? This is how I want to do stuff like that. I'd love having these types of conversation and helping you guys, build your CRM. So I'll definitely end on this note, and I hope everybody enjoyed this one. And if we need to have another chat about action plans, feel free to let me know. I have no problem, showing maybe examples or getting a little bit more in depth and that kind of stuff. But what I went over, essentially, that's it. You know what I mean? Now it's just a matter of you taking that information and building it for yourself and seeing that, wow, didn't really take me that long to build these. And then now I have these things that I can use on unlimited contacts. Now it's just a matter of building relationships and then getting it done. So I definitely thank you, everybody. I don't know if you guys have any questions that you guys would like me to answer. If not, I'll see you this Thursday. Alrighty, everybody. It was a pleasure. You guys have a great day now. Ciao, ciao.